What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another Pokemon Rants. Very few in this hobby go back as far and as deep as the man we have here today. Starting his journey with a magnet and a string, turning one man's trash into a collectible treasure, Gary quickly realized the deep collector passion within. Collecting nearly every TCG released since, he has amassed a collection some would say maybe unobtainable today. But there is one part of his hobbies that resonated more than others, and that is Pokemon. Participating to bring the first Japanese CD promos to the US, even before Pokemon's debut in English, and other such memorable events such as Pawn Stars and the famous Logan Paul transaction, Gary rose to the title of Gary King Pokemon and truly owning that responsibility by looking at the hobby positively and contributing to anyone in any way that he can. Now going around the world as a guest in appearances in Collecticons and similar events, handing out packs to kids and graded cards, while funding his charity event, Autism Instruct, Gary's contributions continue to spread far and wide. I'm honored to have the time and the opportunity to go into these moments and perhaps even the man behind in ways that you've never heard before today. So it is my honor and great pleasure to welcome Gary King Pokemon to Pokemon Wonder. Gary, welcome.
Well, the honor is mine. Thank you for those kind words.
It is truly my pleasure, sir. Truly my pleasure. As I was saying right before we started, really appreciate your time. I know that it's valuable, so we'll try to make the best of it and hopefully give some good, fun information here to the crowd. So thank you so much. With that being said, though,
something I like to do. I like to ask, what did your mom call you?
My mom called me Kane.
Kane?
Yeah, Kane, like Cain and Abel.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, I believe in calling ourselves what our mothers called us.
And so, yours was?
I didn't expect that question. Actually, it was Greenie.
Greenie, really?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I guess because anytime I had a choice to pick something, I always picked green. So,
okay. Favorite color,
yeah. That hasn't changed, especially when it comes to money.
That's the only color we know, right?
Right.
Well, to give you the background on mine, Kane is actually my middle name. So it's Justin Kane Windhorse. So she always called me Kane. Yeah.
Do you mind if I call you Kane?
Not at all. Not at all. Okay. Please go right for it. Right. Be my honor. Yeah. Okay. Gary, please do us the pleasure. I know you've spoken about it many times in the past, but again, we don't know who will see this for the first time. So how did you get into Pokemon? Where was that kind of origin story? And I would love for you to perhaps even touch on some of the journey in that 1998, 97 kind of early promo stage as well. That'd be a great way to start.
Yeah, well, the first time I heard about Pokemon, back then it was just Pocket Monsters. But the first time I heard about it was like in, I guess it was 97, maybe early 98, somewhere around there. And what it was there was an international news release that talked about an episode of Pocket Monsters that was causing kids to have seizures and things like that.
I remember that
hit the international news, and I thought, wow, I said that's really something, that a little tiny game and TV show and that in Japan, would hit the international news over something like that. And so from that moment on, I kept my ears open about things about Pokemon, and as they got bigger in the subsequent months, I thought, well, this would probably translate well to the United States or to English-speaking countries in that. And so I got involved with a group that our goal was to bring Pokemon to the United States. And sure enough, Media Factory in Japan, at the time, that they were willing to try, anything, of course, to increase their popularity and their bottom line.
Right.
They went for it. And so And so a number of us got that done. We got Japanese promos brought to the States, put them on Shop at Home, TV network, and they sold like crazy. And then much to my dismay, or maybe not, Media Factory fired me because they said, wait a second, this is going to be big. We don't need Gary anymore, or Kenny, or any of the others. We don't need you guys, so you're out. So it was kind of expected. And at the time, I was already in my 40s, so it's not like I didn't have any experience or hadn't been through stuff before. Yeah,
right.
So that's really where it all began.
Let's go back to that, because there's, I've heard some of that story, but there's some things that really intrigue me about this. One of them is this the time that you were managing a hotel in Thailand, and that's why you were so keen on the Japanese market? Can you kind of connect that timeline for me?
No, at that time, I was in charge of the Dragon Room at the Bicycle Club Casino in California. I was in the casino resort business before that for many years. And so I was actually involved in that in California, in Bell Gardens, California. And then I got cancer and couldn't work through it. It was kind of a difficult, time. And so I had time off. And during that time off, I learned about, a little bit about the internet. I still don't know much now, but I learned a little bit. and because that's like 1999. And I thought, this Pokemon and all my collections, I said that I really had time to devote to it. And I loved my collections and collecting and that stuff, which I had done since the late 1950s. So, that's actually, how it started. Now, you might be thinking, I did go to work in 2007, I think, where I ran a resort casino in Vietnam.
That's what I'm thinking of. Okay.
Yeah, right on the South China Sea, near Vung Tau, about 2 hours outside of Saigon. And so that you might have been thinking about that. But the best thing about that was that's where I met Tuan.
When running that casino, right?
Yeah, who's Autism Instruct on Instagram. Yeah, she was actually hired to be my assistant. Not my assistant, but the assistant director of the resort. I was the director of the resort.
Okay.
She was the assistant director. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's so the best thing that came out of that was her. Nobody, since this was on the outskirts, like in a Bahria province, an outskirts province, nobody spoke English. And, English is not the second language in Vietnam, it's Chinese.
Right.
So I could communicate. I had to hire a translator, but she was nice enough to do that, do that for me. And so because of that, we got close and ended up falling in love. And when my duty was up, she wanted me to stay in Vietnam, get married, stay in Vietnam. But I still had two sons who were in their, mid-teens. And so I told her that if she would come back to the United States with me for 5 years until the boys were gone.
Hook, line, and sinker, right?
Yeah. Then I told her that if you decided after 5 years you wanted to go back, because all of her family, everybody's there. I said, well, for me, I'll be in my retirement years and I'll go back with you and I'll spend the rest of my life there. And but after 5 years, she decided she wanted to stay after getting her master's degree and and all that stuff. So so I kind of hoped for that, maybe suspected that, but had she said I want to go home, I would have went back and lived out my life in Vietnam.
I guess there was no don't date your coworkers policy at that time, right?
No, I made the rules, so only the director.
It all worked out. That's right. That's right. Good stuff. I was wondering how you met Tuan because I was going to ask you a little bit later. So that's perfect. You lined that story up just nicely for us.
Yeah, she's the love of my life, and right now she's in Vietnam.
Oh, is she? Okay.
With our daughter. She'll go be there for 20 days.
Oh,
so
okay.
So
Nice.
I'm a bachelor right now.
Perfect time for Collecticons, right?
Right. Yeah, for several.
I love it. I love it, Gary.
Yeah.
You know, there's still one more thing that intrigues me about the story of bringing those promos over to the U.S. because that's such, in my mind at least, a pivotal moment of somebody in the U.S. trying to reach out to a company in Japan to bring something over. What was the connection like? I mean, Media Factory owned the IP, I believe.
Yeah.
You had to connect with Gary or Ken Golden and maybe a few others. What were the behind the scenes thoughts and kind of processing going through that? Because that's not a small task.
Yeah. Well, I was more the behind the scenes guy.
Okay.
And the other folks were kind of the face of it in that. So, I mean, it just, it was just a matter of reaching out, talking about it. And it was really easy.
Huh.
It wouldn't be that easy these days, but it was easy back then because they had a very, little limited area, that they were, doing their work in, and they wanted to spread worldwide. They knew what they had, right? But
getting to the US,
of course, it turned out to be, the right call.
Yeah, I watched that 30-minute kind of clip with Ken Golden selling on the shopping network, and that was something to remember. That was true salesmanship right there.
Yeah, he's a dandy. He still is. He still is. I love seeing him.
It's good stuff. I really enjoyed watching that over. All right, so that takes us into bringing that in. That was your introduction into Pokemon. Now let's fast forward just a little bit. We'll actually rewind a little bit. Your background was in biochemical engineering. Is that right?
Yeah, I went to school. Yeah, I went to school at UCLA, which is in Southern California, a major university in Southern California. And my parents wanted a scientist. And back then, you kind of did what your parents told you to do,
right?
Especially since they were paying for it and all that. And so I followed what they wanted. So I went into biological chemistry, and I worked at the same time that I went to school. I worked in it's called the NPI, the Neuropsychiatric Institute, which is a major building there that, that's where my job was. Plus, then I would go to school. Plus, I wrote for the Daily Bruin newspaper. So I was in journalism, too. Journalism was my minor.
Really? I'd never heard that before.
Yeah, I loved that. Well, that was my love. My parents picked out what I would do, and I picked out my minor. And I did journalism, and then I wrote for the newspaper, for the school newspaper. And I had articles such as the Marijuana Research Clinic. And remember, this is back in the early 1970s.
Right. I was going to say it's after 60s. Yep. Before 80s.
And it's funny. I to this day I remember how I started that article. I said something like, "As soon as I opened the door, I knew I was in the right place." and so that I'll never forget that. And so anyway, so I was, that's what I did there. And I kind of put out a teaser. I don't think I ever told anybody this before. I mean, anybody in the hobby.
Please, go ahead.
In that teaser, I put on Instagram about being bitten over 100 times.
Yeah,
by
what
rats.
Was that about? Yeah, I was curious.
Well, that was during that time. My job was breeding Sprague Dolly albino rats for research. Sprague Dolly albino rats, of course, they're white white rats. And so I had 4 rooms at the NPI. I had 4 rooms. One was a breeding room, one was a male room, one was a female room, and one was a retirement room when they got too big and old.
Yeah.
And then I would have to, sacrifice them as I had time. But as soon as the babies got weaned, I had to move them to, the proper next room. And so I was always in a hurry. I mean, I had thousands and thousands of rats to deal with. And in time, I was so confident I would just lay them on my arm, 4 in one arm, 4 on the other arm, and walk to the next room. And pretty often they would bend down and bite me. And so I may be under exaggerating. It may be hundreds of times, but it was so many times. And also there were times I would have to reach in and try to get the weaned babies away from their mother. And the mother would get a hold of me, and they were big with big teeth, and they would get me all over the hands. So
I feel like there was a bi-directional abuse there.
Yeah, that was that little teaser on Instagram I thought people would find interesting. And,
that's hilarious. It's good though. I like it. Yeah. I was wondering, like, I got to hear their story. We saved it for a little bit later, but I'm glad you brought it up because it tied in perfectly with what you were doing straight out of college.
Right. Yes.
What did you end up doing then? So after you left college, what was that first job that kind of landed you in the workforce outside of that, of course?
You wouldn't guess it. My first job out of university had absolutely nothing to do with the sciences. I made it clear after I got my degree and got out of school that I just simply didn't like it. I didn't want to spend the rest of my life.
Let me guess. Yes. Was it the video retail store?
Yes, very good.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. In the mid to late 70s, video was taking off, and there was a video beta. Yeah. And there was video VHS, and the beta was made by RCA. It was
huge.
I remember. JVC, if I remember right, JVC made the.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, made the VHS, and so it was right in the beginning. And me and a partner, a longtime friend, opened up a store on. Let's see, on Sunset Boulevard.
Mm-hmm.
In Hollywood, which is where I was born and raised, in Hollywood.
Okay. Hollywood.
And we opened up a store there, and it took off. It did really well because of the timing, plus large screen projection TVs were just coming out, where you had the unit away from the TV, and it would flash up on the screen, and so they were called projection TVs. Plus, video discs were just coming out, full size, like 33 1/3 record size discs.
Exactly.
But they would go into a machine, into a compact disc recorder, and then play on your TV, play a movie, and that. So all that was happening at the time, and you'd have to be pretty incompetent not to succeed. And so in the beginning we did succeed, but sadly at the time I got cancer the first time. I've had cancer twice and beat it twice.
It was a malignant
I was just
cancer in your leg, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And so I was the leg one was the second one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this was abdominal cancer.
Okay.
The first one. So when that happened, I didn't want to tell my parents. And so I decided I wanted to go somewhere else to get treatment. And so I ended up coming up to Las Vegas, which is about a 3-hour drive from Los Angeles, 3-4 hour drive, and ended up being treated up here. And my brother took over my spot with
in the store.
Video store. It was called Video Village, and they ended up not doing too well, and it folded up, and and I stayed in Las Vegas for the next 10, 12 years, and got into the casino business. Where I was a floor man and a pit boss, and then I ran.
But say eventually you ran one, yeah.
And so I did that for 10 years until like from 78 to 99, which is no, I'm sorry, from 78 to 89, and then I ended up going down to California from 89 to 99, working at the Bicycle Club Casino, running the RNG-Gamez section, and so that and then that's when I got sick again. Which we already got into.
Right.
Yeah.
Curious, Gary, why didn't you want your parents to know? What was the reason to hide it?
Back then, it was really, really hard to deal with your parents. They expected you to do, what they thought was best for you. And I put in all that work. They put in all that money. And I mean, it was hard not to continue, but I think I finally grew up, where I realized what do I want to do the rest of my life? I didn't want to do that. And because I never much liked it, never much cared for it. It turned out I was pretty good at it, though. I had a little bit of an aptitude for that. And, but I did not enjoy it. I didn't like it. I didn't want to spend the rest of my life doing it. So I thought at the time it was best to get out right away and see what developed.
Yeah, when you have that pressure from your parents, especially the investment of their time and their money, it can be hard to say, hey, I'm walking away from everything that you put your time into. I can understand that. Yeah.
And I worked hard too. That was many years, and that was a lot of work. And but it was very unpleasant. But I had my journalism work. I was able to research, write for the newspaper. A couple of the other articles I did. Yeah, a couple of the other articles I did. One was on the UCLA morgue. Where you would walk into the morgue. There would be human bodies hanging like on meat hooks. A large room with 100 bodies, and then on the tables outlining the outside of the wall on the perimeter were pieces of heads and arms and things like that. Because people would donate their bodies.
I was about to say this is for donation for science. Okay.
And then that's what the the morgue did. They supplied those parts, and to investigators and researchers that worked there. So anyway, I did an article on that, and I did an article on maxillofacial prosthetics, building parts of faces from people who had cancer. And I mean, it's so funny. We're talking over 40 years ago.
Yeah,
I remember it so well. I loved doing that. I really loved doing, writing for the Daily Bruin newspaper, and I loved researching. And you could be a little bit creative, and I've always been a bit of a creative type. So,
what made you stop doing the journalism? Because it sounds like it truly was part of your passion.
Yeah, I know. It was pretty much. It was pretty much just what I sort of fell into, right when I left school, right when I got out. So I always planned on doing more. My mom was a writer.
Okay.
Yeah, she was a writer, and she wrote religious stories for all types of magazines and guideposts and in that. And before that, she wrote romance novels. And that romance, she went from romance to religion, and it was always a real interesting story. But it wasn't an easy life, it wasn't easy, and I I wanted to do investigative journalism, but you
Mm.
had to start somewhere else, and I didn't want to do that.
I
So
see.
yeah,
And it's very, I would say, unpredictable, right? Because you're really based on the stories in terms of revenue. You're not exactly having a constant paycheck, so I can imagine that.
right.
Mm,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. Does your mom have a book out that somebody can go pick up and read?
It was mainly magazine articles
Okay.
that
Okay.
she wrote for. I think that the guideposts, there's some. It's funny. I have all. She passed away
Guidepost.
smack dab on my 50th birthday, so 20 years ago.
Yep.
Right on my 50th birthday, March 18th, she passed away, and
Sorry to hear that.
yeah, and one of my sons that a lot of the people in the hobby know, Devin.
Yep.
He wants all her old manuscripts and papers and all that. So I was recently digging them out, and to give to him, so because he'll appreciate them and that, and
That's beautiful.
and something I can I know this may not be too interesting to the viewers,
No,
but
please, yeah, go ahead.
I remember one of her poems was her little son, who she said was me, did something wrong and was sent to bed. And in the poem, she said something like, I said, Mommy, can you give me a kiss before I go to bed? I was being punished and sent to my room, right?
Right.
And she just told me to go to bed. And then that whole night, she wrote a poem saying that in the middle of the night, her son died. And,
Oh, wow.
and the last line of the poem was, oh, how I wish I'd kissed him. When kiss me, please, he said.
That one last opportunity.
Yeah, that's right. And so that taught me a lifelong lesson.
Always take the chance. It's funny you say that, Gary, and I'll share one for myself here as well.
Yes.
So I have two boys, and most of the audience here knows Ethan and Elliot, 9 and about to be 6 this month. So 9 and 5 at the moment. Uh-huh. And I put them to bed most nights. My wife or I would kind of take turns. And Ethan comes in the room here in the office where I'm sitting and says, "Hey, Dad, can you come, give me, good night, hug and kiss, and we'll say prayers." So we go in the room and we do the prayers, and I'm about to say goodnight and give the kisses on the forehead and leave. He said, "Dad, can you sleep with me for a little while?" I was like, "No, son, I got some work to do. Like, there's things I have to get done." He says, "Dad, please," and he kind of grabbed me and just kind of held me there. And I said, "All right, let me just put on my pajamas. I'll be right back." So I put on my pajamas, came and laid down with him, and he fell asleep. I was joking. I kind of took all of his covers. I took his pillow. I said, "Hey, go me in your bed. I'm gonna be comfortable." But I woke up at 2. I was just kidding. I gave it back to him, everybody. So don't worry.
Right.
But I woke up at 2:00 in the morning. I was like, "Oh man, I fell asleep pretty hard." So I got up. But to your point, just that moment really was something. I said, I need to make sure that I seize this moment. And as he was trying to hold me there and, "Dad, please, please." I was like, you know what? I may not get this chance, in the future, and he'll be older and he won't want Daddy to sleep with him. So I'm going to seize that moment now. Yeah.
And you're talking about that today. That shows you how important that was, not only to him, but to you.
Yes.
And 30 years from now, that story is still going to be in your head. And it's still going to mean the world to you, and so I that's how I've tried to live my life, that way, because getting out that next package is not going to be in your head 30 years from now.
No.
But these memories will, and so I love that story.
It's a good correlation even back to my recent podcast with Hodo Jake, which I think is here in the chat. We talked about sometimes we forget to live, and we get so busy and whatever it is, the 9 to 5, the work, the orders, the run and do this errand, and then we just forget to enjoy the moments. And if we can just catch ourselves and say, you know what I'm about to do is probably not more important than what I should do. Yeah.
Something interesting at the Collecticons, I usually hang out in the front and
Yeah.
just give free autographs, free pictures and stuff, and give away stuff. But what I do, what I'll also do, a lot of the people don't know who I am. I always tell them Brad Pitt, but they don't buy that. And so, but anyway, there's a big Pikachu, a giant Pikachu, and the mother or father will take a picture of the kids by the big Pikachu, and I always go over and I grab their phone. I said, "You give them that picture."
Oh,
I
love
said,
it.
"This picture, 40 years from now, you're gonna is the picture that you're still gonna have in your album, and the one that's going to remind you and remind your children of the time you spent together." Exactly. I said, "Of course, it's great to have a picture with just the kids, but have one family photos, we call them. Have a family photo, and I'm happy to take them." And
beautiful.
Yeah.
Make sure you live, everybody. Don't forget to live. Don't forget to live.
Yes.
Before we continue, Gary, I'm just going to give a little bit of recognition and a appreciation here for everybody in the chat. I know that, as always, there's people in the beginning that I missed because YouTube just drops off the chat for whatever reason. But I do see Hodo Jake in the house here.
Hi, Jake.
Zard Lurking's here. Drew, #1 mod in the game. Chef's in the house. Navi Station. Terry Lake. Good to see you, Terry. Thanks for joining us, man. I much appreciate it, buddy. Let's see. We got Alex Ortiz in here as well. Good to see you guys. Really appreciate you showing up. Brad G. Cards. He says, for a split second, I thought Wonder was shirtless. It's a similar color to my skin, but not exactly. Not exactly. That's a different stream. That's a different stream. Ryan Tran in here as well. We got, I think I saw Shining Cards and Collectibles in here. Ray, good to see you, buddy. Says, thanks for having Gary on. It says, I love you, man. Gary is the man. Thank you for always being so kind to me at the conventions.
Oh,
I'm sure you know Ray.
Yes.
He's always there.
Yes.
So everybody else, I really do appreciate you stopping by. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. And with that, we'll go ahead and continue the conversation. So we got really, really deep, really fast, and I love it because we just kind of naturally rolled into it. And I think that really connects us to where we are in the hobby, but also how we got here. But if we roll it back just a little bit and maybe talk about where you are now, because you've been, in terms of collecting, you've been in this space since, collecting bottle caps, with the magnet, as I mentioned at the beginning, all the way to, the Munsters and Adams Family and so many more along the way, ashtrays. I mean, I've heard you collect so many things. What is Gary collecting today? How do you engage in terms of collections in the hobby?
Well, my big thing this last couple of years was MetaZoo.
Yeah.
I mean, I just totally, like you see here, that's just a coincidence. I picked up this hat. But from the very beginning, I loved MetaZoo. I loved the concept. I loved the history of cryptids. I love monster movies, from the past and those types of things, UFO and, aliens, creatures, I just, I have fun with that. And a lot of my card collections from the last 40 years, are, related to that. And so when MetaZoo came out, I said, boy,
perfect.
I said, what a genius idea. Yeah, for me, this was the best. And then I was fortunate enough to have a little bit of a name in the hobby, so people would reach out to me. And fortunately, Michael Waddell did reach out to me, and he wanted me to see some of his stuff that he sent me and that. And so even to this day, I'm still collecting MetaZoo. I know a lot of people, since the bankruptcy and that, a lot of people are selling and all that. And I mean, I would not sell my MetaZoo stuff. I love it. But then again, then again, what came, I'm fortunate in a way that, I don't have to, buy, sell, and trade. If I did, I would, right? And then I'd be a little more creative in the way I build my hobbies and the way I have fun with it. But being an older guy, who's worked his whole life, I can
Yeah.
afford to.
Well established.
Yeah, I can afford to, to buy and keep, and that's what I've done, my whole life, just buy and keep, and yeah. So I would say, MetaZoo is the thing I'm still with, and
Okay.
and so, and what else? I still have some. I just got 2 ashtrays in from about 40 years ago
You
from
still collect them?
from LAX,
Yeah.
the airport in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Old fashioned ashtrays from there. I had 2 of them. They're downstairs where I'd show you. And so that I just whatever comes up, that fits any holes I have, I do it.
I love it. I didn't realize you were still collecting the ashtrays. Yeah.
Yeah, Steins.
Yeah. Oh, you do Steins as well?
Love Steins. Yeah,
Oh,
they're
nice.
too big to collect too many, I
Yeah.
always say. But yeah, I like that. And
My grandpa had Steins, and he also collected bells. I'm not sure why, but it was just one of the things he really enjoyed. So he always had like nice displays of bells in the house, and when he passed, I got all those bells. So very nice.
That's very cool.
Yeah, very cool. I got his Steins and his bells. Yeah. So,
oh man, and they display so nicely.
They do. They look nice. Yeah. Keep them dusted. That's the hardest part.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Other than that, yeah, it's good. Yeah. So, all right. So you're kind of whatever comes your way. Obviously, still touching to the past, back to the point of the ashtrays, but then even still holding on to MetaZoo, because I know that anybody who likes Addams Family, Star Trek, Star Wars, which is some of your past things,
yes,
is gonna love something like MetaZoo.
Right.
What are your thoughts now, since we're there on that topic? Post closure, what are you thinking? I know you talked to Mike, a decent amount here and there, but you think we're going to see a revival? Do you think it'll kind of stay silent for a while?
I can tell you, it absolutely deserves a revival. It definitely deserves it. Michael, won't be involved. Probably 90% won't be involved, but which is too bad, because this was his dream. This meant the world to him. His MetaZoo. I mean, I saw his books that he wrote from college for a number of years, where he had the stories outlined about the cryptids, their names, what they do, from all over the world, and I mean, a serious passion. And I would love to get that book from him, but he wouldn't let me have that. Right?
Yeah, I'm sure.
And and a little bit off subject, but I have 2 of those sample uncut sheets.
Yes.
MetaZoo ones, and which are a real treasure. And I took those 2 months ago on Pawn Stars again.
Oh, did you? I missed that one.
Yeah, I went on. It hasn't aired yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I went on, and Chumley and Rick again, were the 2 in my segment, and it was Michael was actually going to be coming on as the expert.
Oh.
But and he had made arrangements. He was going to stay with me, and he was going to do that. But then a week later, MetaZoo folded, and so he didn't want to come on. He didn't want to come on because he didn't think it would look right. And plus, he was super disappointed. And
I can imagine.
So I contacted the producers, and I told them, I said, "Well, MetaZoo is folded." And I was going to bring on these 2 MetaZoo sample sheets, and but I have a number of other things that would be of interest to people I can bring on instead. And so they took a few days, and they got back to me. They said, "No, we want those MetaZoo sheets."
They still want them. Okay.
They still wanted them, and even though I told them the whole story, and so I went on with those 2 sheets, and the episode went real well. And 9 out of 10 of the segments they film do air. In this case, I'm expecting it to air, but it's been 2 months, and last time it was about 4 or 5 months between filming and
Editing,
airing.
yeah.
And so there's a good chance this will air, in 2-3 months. I certainly hope so. Plus, I think it'll help the hobby, the MetaZoo hobby a bit in that. So, I mean, I know the Pokemon one I did
That was a big
definitely
one.
help the hobby.
Yeah.
And so, and that was my idea. That's really what I wanted, just to promote the hobby. And that's what I want to do with MetaZoo. The whole reason I did it was to promote MetaZoo. And
so did you price the sheets just high enough where Rick wouldn't buy them this time?
yeah, I priced them. I priced those 2 sheets at $120,000.
Okay, each or both?
Yeah, just between you, me, and the listeners, I priced it $120,000 with no intention of selling. But if they had, offered me $120,000, I would have been obligated to. But I didn't think they would. So so that's what I asked for.
Did you display them? Do you have them at home, like on display anywhere?
I have them right over here. I do have them right over here. Do you want to see?
Yeah, that'd be great. Awesome. Yeah, please. I'd love to see those.
Yeah.
Hey Dan, welcome in, buddy. Yeah, no worries. I see you're catching up on 2X. No problem. I did also miss. I saw Ray. You gifted 20 memberships, man. You really didn't have to do that, but thank you so much, Ray. As always, much love and much appreciated, buddy. Much appreciated. Nice. We're gonna see some sample sheets here from MetaZoo. I like it.
Yes, there's only 8 of one and 12 of the other in the world. So this is the non-hollow one, nicely framed.
Oh, it looks beautiful.
So that's the non-hollow. And then the hollow sheet is super cool. It's got the sample Mothman.
Oh, does it? Nice.
And it's got Bigfoot. It has a couple that were never released.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
There's the Mothman. Great.
That's so cool. What a great piece of history to have.
Oh, I just love it. I just love these.
So how did you get those? If you don't mind going into a little bit of detail, what was the story behind obtaining those two?
Yeah, well, Michael knew how much I loved what he was doing, and he knew I collected uncut sheets. So we made some kind of a trade or something for him.
Okay.
And
beautiful. I love it.
Yeah.
But you also have, speaking of uncut sheets, you also have a pretty good variety of uncut sheets on Pokemon side as well. Isn't that right?
Yes, I probably have the second best collection out there or maybe the third best collection out there of Pokemon uncut sheets. I have pretty much all of them.
Okay.
The key ones I have. And Rusty TCA Gaming has a beautiful collection of uncut sheets. I've been to his house in South Carolina to see him. And then there's a fellow that I haven't heard from in years, but he has probably the biggest quantity of them. He has hundreds.
I forget the guy's name, but I think it was the same guy who was helping Rusty obtain them, right? Yeah, and he had, I think, a large number of them. I forget his name though. Yeah. Excuse me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are some beauties, and they're hard to display. I know Rusty's cases; they were very expensive to get shipped over. I think it was like $3,000 or $4,000 to be made, and it was another $6,000 to ship them. It was crazy.
Yeah, but it's a beautiful. He has it up in his attic in one of his in his little working space. Yeah,
beautiful displays for sure. Beautiful. Well, Gary, this kind of takes us into some of the collecting. But one of the things, and obviously that's not fully true based on what I see here today, but one of the things I heard you say at one point was, you don't really have much in the house anymore. Most of it's in storage. And I wondered, how does he really get to enjoy it? But it sounds like maybe you talked to Tuan and you brought some things back in, so she allowed some collecting space, perhaps.
Yeah, well, like these uncut sheets, since I had them on the show, that's why they're here.
Okay.
But I don't keep anything here anymore. The prices just went up too high. I used to bring, a dozen or two expensive PSA 10 first base Charizard, Shadowless. I used to take them with me to the shows and, give them to the kids to hold and to take pictures with them and all that. And they just went up too much in value. So, I can't enjoy them by seeing them as often as I. Plus, many of them, I have 3 different storage places in 3 different states, and those are at a place in Maryland, and so I rarely get a chance to, see those.
Go see it.
Yeah, so I'm kind of disappointed about that, but because when they were cheaper, like when I accumulated most of them, it was cheap. They didn't cost that much for an adult working man, right? So
right.
But
I remember some of your early videos, some of them close to 6, 8 years ago, where you had like your collection corner in the house, and you had your graded returns and what you were working on. So it was all there at some point.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Back then, and then it got, the values went up too much. They got too popular, and
yeah.
I like to say Twan just wouldn't let me take any more chances. She won't even let me bring. I shouldn't say that, but she won't even let me bring one valuable first edition base Charizard to a show because I brought a couple, a Shadowless Beckett 9.5 and a first edition base 9.5, and they actually got stolen at a Denver Collecticon.
Yeah, I remember that story. Yeah. I remember the story that you mentioned about that, and kind of really soured at least those cards for you.
And I did end up selling those.
Did you? I was going to ask.
I could not look at those anymore without getting a bad feeling in my stomach.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to say who. A lot of the people here would probably know them, but I ended up selling just because of it just brought back too many bad memories. And again, I'm a bit of a sensitive sort. So when I had them, I just didn't feel good about them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, to relive that experience isn't one that we want to have repeated anytime we look at something we enjoy. So, yeah.
Right.
I understand. Yeah.
And just so everybody knows, I did get them back. Again, because of my reputation, the cards were known, and somebody, anyway, going through PayPal, the police department, I actually ended up getting those 2 cards back after they were stolen, luckily. And, but then they never meant the same to me.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate experience, and I hate it happened to you, Gary, but I can understand why you don't want to bring some of those to future events. I get it.
Right.
Yeah.
But now what I'm doing, and I'd like your people to know, and for every Collecticon, now I bring free packs and free graded cards.
Right.
And I'm talking about mint, gem mint, base set. I bring them all just to give away to the kids. And in fact, I was just going through them, just now, and what I'm going to bring to Kansas City in 2 weeks. And they're primarily, base set, base unlimited,
nice.
and graded 8, 8.5, 9, 10. And so I do that now instead of bringing something fancy. I do that. The parents, I make the kids put them on their head, and if they can hold it there for 5 seconds, they can keep it. And of course, they all do. And but the parents take pictures of that happening, and so that kind of makes up for not having the real expensive card they can hold.
Right. You get to build another experience, right? Another memory, another good memory. Yeah.
Yes.
I heard the kids pick majority of the time the packs and not the graded cards, unfortunately.
Yeah, isn't that something? And the packs, I do Pokemon packs and MetaZoo packs, and the Hello Kitty MetaZoo Hello Kitty. The kids like those a lot, especially the girls for whatever reason. And but I give them a choice, a pack or a slab, and they can pick them. More so, the girls pick the packs, and some of the younger boys pick the packs. But I try to do it like 13, 14-year-olds and under.
Okay.
They're pretty sharp by that age, and so they pick the slabs, knowing there's the value is more than what their dad's paying to get them in. So
that's when dad's like hitting them in the corner, like, get the slab, son.
Yeah, absolutely. You got that right. You got that right. Because the kid often will turn and look at the dad.
Yeah.
Pack the slab.
Yeah.
They say, "Oh, you like slabs?" Like,
yeah, you like it. You like it. Just pick that one. The one on the right. The one on the
right. and for that, somebody helps me out quite a bit in getting all the graded cards, and goes above and beyond. And that's Matt Flynn from CGC.
Yeah, CGC. Yep.
Yeah, he's just been terrific about that. About giving big breaks and doing that for me. And he told me as many years as I want to do it, he's going to help. So shout out to Matt and CGC for that.
And what a great way to really introduce the new generations. I mean, it's just a beautiful way to interact and get the family together. Excuse me. And then also have the kids perhaps see something they've never seen before, whether it's a set, whether it's the graded card, free marketing for CGC. So very smart on their part too. I mean, it's a win all the way around. It's a win-win-win. Yeah.
Yeah. You get that card in the kid's hand, and by CGC, they might want another one. Then they start collecting those, and sure that helps. I know that's what Eddie Brendeschultz and I did back in the early 2000s.
Birdman,
with PSA. Him and I got that all going, with PSA. At the time, you would type into eBay PSA Pokemon, and there'd be 20 cards there.
You guys.
And they were all Eddie's and mine.
Yeah.
And now you type it in, there's 1 million, right? So
right.
But that's what it did. We did it. Pokemon was going down a little bit. We wanted to lift it up, and so we did it by grading and getting people into grading, giving away free grades, and helping people build their collections, and it definitely did help Pokemon. It definitely did help PSA.
Yeah. Ryan here was asking, are you still collecting any graded Charizards, or do you have pretty much all you're looking for, Gary?
Yeah, I pretty much have. There's not a whole lot of them around. I've told people that I don't know what the pop is today, but it's been in the 123 range for years, right? There's not many out there. And Eddie and I, we went through our old PSA stuff, and that him and I graded, and you're right, Eddie Brendeschultz is Birdman. A lot of people know him by that. Him and I graded 76 of the 123 PSA 10 first edition Charizards. So that tells you. Plus, when I did the episode in 2016 of Pawn Stars, there was 123 population.
Okay.
Now, 8 years later, there's 123 population. So sure, some were cracked. Logan Paul, some were cracked and crossed over in that, but pretty much they're all in the 120. They're still in the 120 range. So there's just not many out there, and there's not many sealed packs left, and there never were many.
You still have 9 boxes, right? So you have 6 in a case, and
I have 6 in a half open case and 3 loose ones.
That's first edition base set boxes there. Yeah.
First edition base set. Yeah. 9 boxes.
Yeah.
and I have 12. I have 12 first edition PSA 10 Charizards. I went down to 10 when I sold 2 of them. For the good of the hobby, as far as I was concerned. But did I do that balloon thing?
Yeah, you did.
How did I do it? I haven't moved.
I think it was the peace sign that you threw up. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it was the. I think iPhone camera does that sometimes, or the Mac if you have an Apple computer. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the iPad, but same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Boy,
Yeah.
I wish I knew how I did that. That was cool.
Now I think you can even do like thumbs up, and it'll give you like a thumbs up icon.
Sometimes. Oh, okay. I got to watch for that.
Yeah, so you sold 2, which took you back down, but still you have the 10, right? So.
Well, I sold 2. That took me from 12 to 10.
Right.
And then I bought 2. I lost money on it, but I got it back up to 12.
Okay. Yeah. Did you get a black label?
No.
No.
There hasn't been one.
Okay.
Not that I know of.
Yeah, I didn't know of one either, but I was curious.
I hear there's another BGS 10 though. I believe there's 4 now. I don't know anything about the 4th one. I had the first one, and then I got the second one.
Right.
That Lee Steinfeld, Leon Hart.
Yep.
He middlemaned a deal, so I was able to get the second one. So I had the only 2, and then Logan ended up, crossing over one he bought from me, and got a 10. And then somebody told me there's 4 of them now, so I haven't checked that. But
yeah, it's floating around somebody's collection somewhere, probably on a shelf.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to find.
Yeah.
This is actually a great segue, Gary, because, and this is, tell me if I'm wrong here, but going back to even some of the first set, base boxes, you were driving to WotC. I would like to go back in time. You were driving to Washington and like filling up your trunk with like first ed base boxes. Right. Tell us about this. I mean, because it's just like something you don't hear very often. You just called up WotC and placed an order and drove up there and picked it up. I mean, what was the process here?
No, I just drove up there and
fill it up. Just
got to meet them and talk to them and just because you couldn't get the first edition anymore. The ones they released, those boxes they released, all went pretty much on the West Coast.
LGSs, right?
The what?
To LGSs, they had priority over the big box retailer?
Yeah, to LGSs, but they just didn't produce very many, so they didn't. They were thinking there'd be enough to cover the country, but they all got sucked up on the West Coast because it was real popular right away. And so I went up to try to get those and a few other things, and they were nice enough to to sell them to me.
But I mean, I gotta poke here a little bit, Gary. Would you like walk in the front lobby and say, "Hey, I'd like to buy some base set boxes"? What was this transaction like? I mean, did you already know somebody, and so you just kind of had lunch and started talking?
Yeah, well, I mean, so many years have gone by. This is like 25 years later, so I can probably answer that. I've never answered this before, but because I have been asked, I actually went under the premise that I was writing an article, I was writing an article for a well-known magazine at the time. And so I wanted to do a tour and all that. Plus I was an enthusiast, and plus they kind of knew me a little bit because of my involvement with Media Factory. But I wanted to do an article is what I told them. And that wasn't really quite true. But like I said, it's 25 years later, so it's not going to matter anymore. But
they're not working there now. Yeah.
So that got my foot in the door. And and I think one of the most interesting things is the Shadowless. Do you know anything about me in connection with the Shadowless?
I don't. So please.
This is an interesting story. In 1999, the beginning of 1999, I noticed the difference when they came out with the unlimited version, and for some reason I was drawn to the Shadowless version, and so I would go to the Frank and Son show in Southern California every Wednesday and Saturday with my boys, who were like 8 and 9 or 8 and 10 at the time, something like that. And I would buy up every single Shadowless card I saw. And I ended up with tens of thousands of them. But I bought them, and they were cheap. You know, they didn't cost much.
Right.
They weren't really recognized as being anything special except by me. And so I was able to get a bunch of them. And then I didn't like being an adult collector. I didn't like pack scratches and things like that on the foils,
right,
of the regular unlimited cards. And so I mailed them back to WotC, and they replaced them. Back then they had a replacement room where they would have cards that they never even went into packs. They just cut the sheets, put the cards in the replacement room, and they replaced damaged cards. And so I had a couple badly pack scratched, and so I sent them back, and they sent them back to me, and they sent back flawless Shadowless cards for my shadowed,
right,
crummy ones. And
you're
these cards were never in packs, so they didn't get those pack scratches and all that. A little bit sometimes from the sheets rubbing against each other,
right,
but not much. But so I said, "Whoa, what's this?" And so I started sending back every little card I could find that every holo foil I could find. Remember, they weren't expensive, the base unlimited back then.
Yep.
And so I would open boxes, find them, send them back, and they would send me back Shadowless. And I'd send them, they'd send me back Shadowless. And I'd send them until finally it dried up, and they started sending regular unlimited cards.
That's I'm done.
I had pretty much got them all, and that's how I ended up with
I didn't know that story.
Yeah, a huge number of Shadowless. And then I worked for 2 years with Joe Orlando from PSA to get them designated as something besides the unlimited version. And he said, "Well, no, there's no real call for it. Nobody really recognizes them anyway." But over those 2 years, I had sold and traded some Shadowless for other things, and so they started getting more Shadowless cards in at PSA, and so finally, after 2 years, Joe said that we'll designate them.
We'll do it.
And I asked them, my word for them back then was not Shadowless. My word was no shadow. So I called them like the no shadow Charizard. And then PSA put the name Shadowless there.
That's where it came from.
Yes. And which I thought they were right. I liked their name better. I always said no shadow, but I like their name better.
Shadowless does roll off the tongue a little bit better. I'm perhaps biased because that's all I've heard, but yeah, I do like it. That's a beautiful story, Gary. I did not know that.
That something? Yeah,
I know that. I heard Rattle, a couple of years ago, talking about you could still actually return some of your cards if they were damaged from the factory.
Yes.
So they must still have some type of a process for that, but I've never utilized it. So,
yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, they won't. Again, at the time, being an adult collector, I collected sports cards my entire life, and so I was very aware of condition. So it's not like the youngsters of the day, where they wouldn't, even pay much attention to anything like that. I wanted them in great condition, and so that once again, that was just a lucky break. It was
a seasoned collector stepping into Pokemon is what it was.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I got one here from Zard Larkin. He says, question for you, Gary. Are there some things PSA wouldn't recognize with Pokemon that you asked them to, other than Shadowless, obviously? Like distinguishing between different error cards or things of that nature. Do you have any other stories like that?
Yeah, back then they weren't open at all to recognizing, like the non-holo Dragonite or the no stage Blastoise. They wouldn't put those on labels because nobody but Gary requested it, right? They figured we're not going to set up this whole new thing for just one guy Yeah, for one guy. So that's actually a really good question because numerous things went through.
Mm.
Some of the Bandai, Japanese Bandai cards, they wouldn't even grade, and so things like that. But I was pretty persistent, and I had a little bit of a relationship with the president of PSA, Joe Orlando.
Yeah.
And so, in fact, I have a poster that he signed, he autographed and sent it to me as if it had to do with some advertisement PSA at a show, and he sent it as a joke because it wasn't like I wanted his signature on some random poster, but he sent this. But
Marketing
anyway,
material.
I had a little bit of a relationship with him, not big, but a little bit, and so he would hear me out on everything, but they wouldn't go out of the way to designate things just because Gary asked. And
It's funny where we are now, right?
Later on, they ended up designating all those.
Yeah, it's fast forward a couple of years later, and now it's the thing. If you don't have it, then it's a mislabel, and there's a whole other issue there. Yep.
Right. Yes.
Yep. Gary, I know that we just ran over the hour mark. I know we talked about it before. Are you okay to still go for a little bit longer?
Sure.
Okay, great. Appreciate it, sir. Much appreciated.
Sure.
Enjoying the conversation. I love these old stories that kind of connect back to the history and some of the key moments that we perhaps all take for granted now as we look at what we get when we grade something, some errors, some base sets, Shadowless, and this is kind of the origin of where those pieces kind of all came together. I love it, man. Very good stuff.
Right. Well, there's a lot more.
Please, I'm listening.
Well,
all ears.
I mean, in time,
okay,
there's a lot more stories. I mean, that's someday Eddie and I, Birdman and I, because we were not only friends, but we were partners in so many things back then that we both have some stories. So someday him and I will get together and do an interview, a dual interview.
That'd be awesome.
And that'll be fun for the community to watch.
How did you meet him, anyways?
There was this huge lot of Happy Birthday Pikachus that a friend of ours who's long since passed away. His name was Steve Gordon.
I was gonna say Steve. Yeah. Okay.
He got a hold of thousands of Happy Birthday Pikachus, and still sealed inside the the Japanese one, still sealed inside the cello packs, or no, I'm sorry, inside the sticker sleeves. And he wanted, he knew Eddie and he knew me, but Eddie and I hadn't connected. This is in the early days of Yahoo
auction.
USA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he wanted us to sell them for him. So I was selling them on Yahoo America, and Eddie already
2000. 2000 was about the year 2002.
No, that's 1999.
Oh, it's still 99. Okay,
that's the early days.
Okay,
the earliest year, and Eddie already had quite a pretty good footprint in eBay, and so Eddie was selling the eBay ones. I was selling them on Yahoo. And that's how we met, through Steve Gordon.
Okay. Yeah. I was wondering how the three of you kind of connected, because I've heard stories. You tell stories about how the three of you really came together to do certain things in the hobby, but I didn't realize how you all connected.
Yes.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Good stories. Are you still connected with eBearman today? You still stay connected?
All the time. We've been like brothers for 25 years. Yes.
I love it. Great stories. Yeah, it's the friends.
We've only met one time.
Really? In person?
But we've talked thousands and thousands of hours, whether it was friendship things or strategy things or stuff like that.
Wow.
We've only met one time, and I think that was at the 2018 Worlds in Washington, D.C.
Okay. Yeah.
He came up there. He doesn't like to fly, so he drove there. He lives in Bethpage, New York.
New York.
So
Okay.
he drove over there, and there's a good picture around of Eddie and I and Scott Pratt, the three of us in a picture, and that's kind of a picture I treasure. But we have talked more hours than you'd even believe. We used to talk all night about things.
What really keeps you connected with Eddie at this point? You guys still doing deals? Are you still creating new business opportunities, or just chatting about life?
Yeah, just chatting. He'll have stuff going on, or I'll have something going on unrelated to the hobby.
Oh, okay.
And so just in a friendship way.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. He still tries to stay very active, in the hobby. He has, he does his eBay and Instagram and stuff like that. He's about, I think, 5 years younger than me.
I was wondering. Okay.
Yeah, I think he's 62 or 3. I'm 70 now. So
happy belated birthday, by the way. March,
thank
right?
You.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah,
the big 70.
That's a big one. Yeah, I'm not all that thrilled with it either.
I can't say. Pretty much after 23, I was like, yeah, I'm good with birthdays.
Yeah.
I'm 42 now, so.
Yes. Especially now that something that's changed a little. I'm a little more conscious of age now that our little daughter, we have a 9.5-year-old daughter. Now that's changed my whole perspective on age and before I was kind of settling in and settling down, and that picked up in a hurry when the little girl came along.
I was about to say, yeah, that keeps you young, whether you like it or not.
And which with a 6 and a 9-year-old, you understand.
Yeah, I do.
Especially boys.
They are always running. My grandmother's here with us here for a couple months, and she's watching them kind of go wild. And she's like, I don't know how you have the energy. I'm like, I got to go to the gym. I got to stay somewhat active so I can try to keep up with them, because they are just full of energy, just full of it.
Yeah, see, I remember very well. My sons were 15 months apart, and they were born in 91 and 92. So they're right there in age. And when Pokemon came out, that was the 8, 9 years old, somewhere in there.
Perfect age.
Yeah. And they love Pokemon, and so I know what you go through.
No. We enjoy it here as well. Your daughter's name is Akira, right?
Akira.
Okay.
Yes.
If we could roll back just for maybe a few minutes here, Gary, I was curious about your engagement with Collecticon. Don't you have some type of a partnership or partial ownership? What's that relationship?
I'm a little owner, owner, not enough to have a lot of say, but they respect me, and they consult me all the time. So they're in 2021, the first one in Frisco, Texas, Collecticon, and they came to me for advice and asked me, what I would do and all that. I guess I gave them some pretty good advice, because they gave me a percentage, and
good words of wisdom.
Yeah. And that year, this is year 3 now. I've been to, I don't know if it's at 20 now. I've only missed one, which was Charlotte a week after Dallas was too much for me. Having to travel to the East Coast from the West Coast, and
that's a lot.
And it was the following weekend, which was 4 days later. I have to jump on a plane. So anyway, I've been to 20 of them, just about. I've been to every one but one. And this year we have 12, and I haven't missed one, and I hope to go to all of them.
How you holding up? I know that's a lot.
And then next year it's going to be more than 12. So I'm I mean, obviously, I pull for them, and I'm a minor owner, but I just go because I like to spend the time with since I have a little bit of a name, with the kids and pictures and things like that. I don't really make any money doing it, but fortunately it does. That doesn't matter. So but I just love going. I just love going, and I'm humbled just that anybody would want the old man. That's
I think you will continue to be humbled for many years to come, Gary, because
thank you.
Many people enjoy your presence and enjoy being around you. I know when I met you at Charlotte, it was just a very eye-opening experience, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And you were so kind and generous. So,
thank you.
Many people feel the same way.
Well, it means a lot to me. That it means a lot to me.
Me too. Me too. One of the things that I think about, I think you mentioned in prior discussions that a lot of your proceeds, if you do have any, they go actually to Autism Instruct. So any of the proceeds you make actually go over to fund your charity.
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about the charity?
Yeah, and I do our international ones too. Italy and Paris. I've done Paris 3 years in a row, and nice. I have promo cards produced that I sell. It's the only thing I ever sell, and that money all goes into our charity. So, what it is Autism Instruct. Our little girl Akara, she has autism. My wife is Twan. Autism Instruct is a master's degree holder in special education and a special education teacher, in our school district. And so pretty much our whole life these days revolves around autism. And so that's that's our probably the most important thing in our life now is that, and just about everything we do is for the good of what we can do in the autism community.
And was that shift in large part when your daughter came into the world and you knew that she had autism, and that kind of opened your eyes to what happened?
Yeah, good question. Yes, absolutely. Because my wife, she had a couple of degrees in Vietnam in tourism and things like that. And then she came here to the States and went to UNLV, or University of Nevada, Las Vegas, went to hotel management. We have probably the best hotel management school in the nation. And
I didn't know that.
And so she got her bachelor's degree in hotel management. And then the little girl was born, and we discovered that she had autism. And my wife wanted to convert, to special education. So instead of pursuing her master's, instead of pursuing her master's in hotel management, she switched over to special education, and that's
very humble.
So you're right. It was, the birth of the little girl is kind of what got us into all that, and I got to tell you, the truth came. I wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, this little girl is the absolutely most perfect person I've ever known in my life, and I wouldn't change anything about her. And now it's giving us a goal,
for a new sense of purpose,
for our future, a purpose.
Yeah.
And instead of just sitting back and watching Dobie Gillis, now I can.
Your favorite show of all time,
Yeah, my favorite show of all time. The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis, 1959. In fact, my name on E4, and my name on originally on Yahoo and eBay was Who's Zelda Gilroy.
Came from the show.
Zelda Gilroy was the love interest, or the one who loved Dobie Gillis in that old TV show. That's why I use that. So,
but going back to your well put point, definitely those moments bring a new sense of purpose, a new sense of value to life. And I don't exactly live in the same situation as you, but I can definitely understand and have others in ways that I can relate. So changing that perspective and putting it towards something to help others, I think is a beautiful thing. So hats off to you and your wife.
Yeah. Well, it means a lot more to us than the good, whatever good we can do. It does a lot more for us.
I love it. And before we change the topics, I did want to mention that I looked and I saw obviously the Instagram account for it, but if you do have a website or any way that people could donate, let me know after we finish the podcast, and I'll make sure to post that in the description. That way, anybody who wants to help support the Autism Instruct will be happy to do that.
Just so you know, we actually don't solicit private donations.
Okay.
We do get some corporate ones, and then my wife and I donate all the money we bring into it through our promos and that. So we don't actually have it set up, for individual donations, but I sure appreciate that, that thought, and maybe in time we'll do that, but we'll wait and see.
We'll be on the lookout, Gary. Happy
Great.
to support, and much of love in the meantime.
Thank you.
Taking it back to business for a second, Gary, because you retired, as you said. You kind of went through, I think the last round of jobs was your casino jobs, and that's kind of where you went into retirement. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. But yet you hate to sell all of your collectibles, and yet you travel, around the world. How do you fund your business? How do you move through at this point without selling anything, but also just really sitting in retirement? What's your cash flow mechanism?
I borrow from my wife. Yeah, I have I have money put aside, and that, so we self-fund everything.
Okay, I love it.
And I'll sell a little bit here and there. If it, like those 2 cards I sold.
Mm-hmm.
And that brought in, quite a bit, and but you're right. I don't sell much. I don't like to, I don't like to sell much.
Part with your collections.
And I'm lucky I don't have to. But that's what it was like back in the beginning of Pokemon, was that I didn't have to buy, sell, and trade, to build a hobby. I could just buy and keep, and so that's why. And I tell everybody, it's not because I was smart. I didn't know what it was going to do, and I didn't care. I just loved it, and I just loved the collecting aspect of it. And if it did good or bad, I wouldn't get any of the blame and none of the credit. I wanted to keep the interest up just because I wanted to keep the hobby alive, because I love the hobby. But as far as a moneymaker, that's certainly not what I'm after now.
Yeah.
And whatever special projects we do, like with the promo cards, I'm doing those with for the charity. And something to mention,
please.
I actually am getting a hold of about enough for about 5,000 cards, the original base foil.
Really?
Yes. And so the exact same foil, 3D foil pattern with the stars and the dots and all that. I've actually gotten a hold of a good amount of that. And my next promo card is going to be made with that foil, the original base foil. Is that cool?
That's so cool.
Yeah, so that's going to be fun. And I'll probably offer that, on Instagram or through.
I was going to say.
Just about all my other promos, I did them all internationally, through France or Italy.
Okay.
And I sold them all through that. And never, the only English promo I ever had of me was put out that in Frisco, Texas, for the first Collecticon.
Oh, I didn't realize.
They did it, not me. So, this one, because of the special foil, I might do a United States offering, through the Instagram, Yeah.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you stay tuned to the Instagram channel to see when we can get those. That'd be awesome. I can't wait.
That's right. Yeah, I haven't seen the artwork yet, but the fella.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah, my last one showed me climbing the Eiffel Tower.
Yep.
It was for Paris, and this Japanese artist did the work. Beautiful job, and even made me look good. They're crazy, and and so this new one, I don't know what it's going to be. If anybody has any ideas, they can send it me a DM on Instagram, Real King Pokemon, and I'm trying. I want a great idea on what to make it for a United States. For people who might be interested here in the States.
All right, I got one for you. People may not like it, but I'll throw it to you anyways.
Ah.
So it'll be special delivery Gary. Riding on the Charizard, had the little postman hat on.
Oh.
Yeah, and instead it'd be like the special delivery Gary with the special hollow foil from base set. There we go.
I want all your followers to comment and tell me two things. Number one, does Kane have a good idea or not? I want them to tell me.
Be honest.
And do they have any ideas too?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, that's so cool, Gary. I can't wait to hear about that one. And hopefully I'll be able to snatch one up before they get all gone. So.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Gary, one of the other things that really is interesting to me is your involvement across the hobby is so widespread, from Instagram to just your normal connections that you talk to on a daily basis to every Collecticon you go to and around the world. You got to have, in my opinion, a really good pulse on the hobby. How do you see things here in 2024? Are we sitting in the best position ever? Do you think we're slowing down? How do you feel?
We had a really bad downtime in the early 2000s. That was when Eddie Brenneschultz and I got together to try to think of a way to, to build up the hobby, which we did through grading. And it's had its little bit of ups and downs. Of course, 2016, Pokemon Go came out, and then 2017 early part, the Pawn Stars episode aired, which pumped it up again.
Yep.
The pandemic happened, and Pokemon Go kept going, and then the pandemic happened in 2020. That pumped it up again. Something always pumps it up, but it never really goes down a lot. And I really believe that 15 years after the last set is produced, Pokemon is more than safe. So they're still printing sets today. So for 15 years in the future, and I say that not only as supposing it, supposition, but because I've been through this all before, with all kinds of hobbies and all kinds of items. And as long as there's enough interest to keep producing them, those kids are going to grow up. In 15 years from now, I look where you were 15 years ago, and your viewers 15 years ago, look where they were, and look where they are today with this interest. Well, those kids today are going to be 15 years older in 15 years. So, 15 years after the last set is produced, this hobby is more than safe. And there's going to be little ups and downs here and there, like always. It seriously means very, very little. As long as our economy picks up a little bit,
should be okay.
It'll be fine the next 4 or 5 years. So that's how I feel about that. I'm very confident.
Do you see it reflected in the numbers and the people and Collecticons and just the overall engagement in Pokemon when you're there?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Collecticon is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. This last one we had in let me see, where was it? I go to so many. In Orlando. The last one we had a couple of weeks ago in Orlando was the biggest ever. And
oh wow, okay.
And that says something, because they've all been super successful. From day one, it's been a successful business, and it's just gotten bigger and bigger and better, and the vendors keep coming back. That tells you they're doing well. They're making money,
Right.
so they keep coming back. Otherwise, they wouldn't come back.
Exactly.
And this Orlando show was an absolute monster, bigger than all of them. And now we're increasing the number of shows for next year, and we have some new venues. We're going to be in New Jersey a couple months from now.
Yeah.
That'll be the first time in New Jersey. We're going to be in Chicago. Going to be in Chicago. That'll be the first time this year. Going to be in Atlanta, Georgia. That'll be the first time this year.
Nice.
And so
huge growth.
Yeah, so we keep getting. I say we like I'm a big part of it. I don't want to be misunderstood. I'm just a little guy, but
I mean, you're there. I mean, you're at the front gate entrance, getting all the kids excited before they walk in. So it's very much a we thing, right?
Yeah, I'm definitely always there, and they appreciate it, and for now the fans appreciate it, and I'm extremely humbled by it. I'm so happy about it. That here in my advanced years, that you're still wanted for something. That's that really makes you feel good. It really does. And
you have to walk away energized. I mean, you have to be just full of energy when you leave these events. Obviously, it's hard to travel, and that by itself is a lot. But the events and the people, I think you have to probably just walk away fully energized and just thrilled.
Yeah, especially the older you get, that travel is difficult.
Yeah,
it really is. And at this age, it is hard. And also, I'm far west, and 11 of the 12 this year are Texas and beyond to the East Coast, and so I had a short flight to L.A. Los Angeles Convention Center.
Okay.
All the rest are way away. I kind of wish they'd do one in Vegas.
You can drive to it, right?
Yeah. That's right.
Exactly.
Sure.
All right. Well, Gary, a few other things. One of the other topics I wanted to touch on is maybe just some thoughts on some things that are happening in the market from your perspective. I think all of us here in the depths of the hobby, doing the buying, the selling, the flipping, whatever it may be, collecting, we've kind of heard some points of view, but I would love to hear yours. So, and if you don't have an opinion, perfectly fine. But let's talk about GameStop. I'm sure you've heard about it. You know what's happening there. Any thoughts on what's happening with GameStop and where that trajectory might lead us?
Well, I mean, I feel that if they actually, give 60-70%, it's probably a pretty good service for a lot of hobbyists, because a lot of them don't want to go through the eBay hassle or go through all that. If they don't try to lowball everybody, and they'll actually go 60-70%.
Yeah.
Maybe 70% trade, 60% cash,
something like that,
or close to that. Then I can see it as benefiting the hobby. If they don't, then it becomes less important to the hobby. So, if I could snap my fingers and do anything about it, I wouldn't have it, because I love LGSs. I mean, for me, when I was a kid, LGSs and my boys and so many of the
they were so special.
Yeah, so many of the good people in our hobby, that have their own stores, and I mean, here locally, I'm IVR. Instagram, I'm IVR, opened up a store here, and I talked to her yesterday. She's doing well, and I mean, I think it's going to hurt the game stores. So if I had a choice, I would not have it. But that business is business, and
they're trying to save themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't want them to. I just don't want them to lowball and undercut our hobbyists and knock people out of the hobby. Game stores bring people into the hobby.
And I fully agree. And I was just talking to my mom. She was here,
Mhm.
visiting grandma, and we were
Right.
talking. I said, "Mom, do you remember that store that we used to go to when I was a kid? They had comic books and baseball and basketball and Pokemon. They had a little bit of everything." I said, "Do you remember the store's name?" I can so vividly remember what it looked like, where the shelves were, what was on the displays. Like for me, walking into that store was something so special. And no offense to GameStop or any big
Mhm.
box store, but I don't feel that when you walk into a Target or to a GameStop or to a Walmart. That's just not how you feel. It's
No.
those special LGSs that just do their own little unique thing. They bring you in, you play your local games with a Magic, Pokemon, whatever it may be, Lorcana. It associates something different than these big boxes do. And I know even GameStop does, tournament play, but it's just not the same. It's not the same.
No. And in our game stores, they need the business. They
Yeah,
operate on such low margins, and
yeah,
they operate on pure love for these hobbies. I mean, you don't have any outsiders running game stores.
mm,
These are all
right,
passionate,
exactly.
passionate people, and so yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you there for sure.
Yeah,
And I sure hope it doesn't hurt them.
I hope so too. I hope so too, Gary. What about your thoughts on maybe the recent acquisitions with PSA and eBay? Obviously, PSA was acquiring the eBay Vault, but you're not really a big seller, so I know that doesn't really impact you, but maybe just your general thoughts, if you have any. And of course, then eBay obtaining golden auctions. Any
Yeah,
thoughts there?
I'm not a big uh, uh, I'm not a big PSA fan. Uh, I've
Really? I'm
had
surprised.
Yeah, no, I'm not, because I've been in business my whole life, and during the pandemic, I thought they just did things horribly wrong,
Oh, okay.
and and I was vocal about it. I never mind any questions like you. I think you asked me earlier, was there anything I didn't want to talk about? I don't care.
Yeah.
I'll talk about anything, uh, and if I feel that way, not that I'm always right, because of course I'm not, but I'm
Right.
willing to voice my opinion. And I thought eBay just did an unconscionable job during the
Mm,
pandemic. Uh, and then, I mean, I'm going to tell you that I have never paid more than $8 to grade a card, to grade a PSA card in my
uh,
entire life. And I have more PSA boxes than most people have PSA cards, and empty boxes. And that I've never paid more than $8 for a card. And now with all the upcharges
mm,
and I mean, not knowing what you're going to pay for something till after they do the work on it, and I'm just not happy with the way they run their
I
business.
see. I see.
So so I and the funny thing is, they know it. They know me very well, and they went to Steve Aoki, and they talked to Steve, and they said, why is Gary so upset at us? And that, and Steve said, well, I don't know. I really don't know. What the deal is. So, but Steve came to me, and he said, PSA asked me why you badmouth them so much, and I said, it's not bad mouthing. I think they do a horrible job. Recently, with their business decisions,
Mm.
and I simply say it, and
No. I mean,
so
you got a lot of
so
experience. Yeah. So, I mean,
yeah, they're not a big fan of mine right now. Ever since Joe Orlando left, and I'm not a big fan of theirs for sure. And so
okay.
that's kind of a negative thing, but that's the truth. That's how
I
that's how
mean,
I
as
feel.
customers, we have to voice our opinions on the services that we receive. Otherwise, businesses don't know how to change things in the future. So it's kind of our duty to do so.
Right? How can you send in a card and you get lucky and get a higher grade than you expected, and then they send you a bill for $1,000 or $2,000,
Mm.
unexpected? That's not that just
Doesn't feel
and
right.
if you and they say it's for insurance reasons, they send it back, and it gets lost, they have to cover it, or things like that. But that's not true. I don't
Mm.
believe that. because you can go to Newport Beach and drop your cards off at the store and pick them up at the store, and they still charge you the upcharges. So it has nothing to do with insurance or any of that. So
Yeah. I heard a statement once that it's their way to capture part of the financial value of the market. Yeah.
And that rubs
Which
me
makes
the
more
wrong
sense.
way.
Makes more sense that way. Yeah.
Yeah, that rubs me the wrong way, totally.
Well, perhaps on a brighter trading, grading note, tag. Have you looked into the tag any? Do you like what you see there? Are you going to try them out?
I have a funny story about that.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, at one of the Collecticons, they had a booth, and they made a special card for me. They took my picture, they turned it into a slab card, and really, really, nice job, really good stuff. And then 2 months ago, when I was in Paris, I was wearing it and selling our promos for our charity. And on day 2, a guy came up to me and offered me $500 for the tag card I was wearing around my neck. I couldn't say no to that because it's all for our charity. So I took it off and I sold the tag card with my face on it for $500. So, now I hope they don't see this, but now Zach, Genmin Pokemon, he's involved with tag, and I spoke to him for about an hour the other night, and he's really high on it. He thinks they do a good job. I do too, and their custom work. I think they made one for my wife, for Twan also.
Did they? Card. Oh, so cool.
And I told the guy, because my Twan was with me, I said, you can have hers for $300. And the guy said, no, we don't want.
It's the deal. You got to do both of them for $1,000 or nothing, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's right. That's true. And so I like Tag. I like what they're doing. I think they're good guys, and but I'm a real softy. I really appreciate people that with a passion, trying to get it out there and make it work. They work so hard, and I feel like supporting them. I feel that way about influencers also. New people that come on, I'll do a lot of interviews. People
I appreciate
with
that.
Limited followers. Because I want them to succeed because they care about what they're doing and they're good for the hobby. And so I like what they do. I like what they're doing. I hope I hope they
a lot of potential
do well with it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where that takes us, and back to some of the gems, no pun intended, the gems that Gem Mint Pokemon dropped on machines in the LGSs and grading there in person. Really interesting topics, and if they can solve some of those from a technology perspective and give all the details behind it, they might have a chance. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, Zach has he's really come out. He really has some good things going on now. Some things in the future he has coming, so I keep an eye on him. In that he actually went to a couple of years ago. He went to Vietnam with Twan, with my wife.
Oh yeah,
and
really?
He went. She just wanted to introduce him, to her family and that. And, so
nice.
he's been a good friend over the years, and so
well, I can tell we're both biting our tongue here, but we there's some good things coming with Zach. I think that we'll hear about really soon. So I'm excited to see what they are. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. Well, Gary, we'll dive into the personal, and we'll bring it to a peaceful close. I really do appreciate it. Are we still good, sir, on time? You feeling okay?
Yeah, sure, fine.
Okay, great. So you're born in 1954. Birthday was, I think, March 18th, right?
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken, right? You lived a beautiful, long life, and you've had many great experiences, some of which we got to hear about here today. But I didn't get to hear too much about your childhood. What was it like for you? And I don't know if you have any brothers or sisters.
Yeah, I have one older brother. He's 2.5 years older.
Okay.
And he's still with us. He lives here in Las Vegas.
Oh, wonderful.
I was, middle class family. My mother was there's an actress from back in the day. Her name's Lucille Ball, and
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, she was had the TV show I Love Lucy.
I
And
know who you're talking about. Yeah.
yeah, my mom was actually her personal assistant for many years, and so
Wow.
we were
That's so
born
cool.
and raised right in the heart of Hollywood, in that, and I actually two of my girlfriends were actually in TV shows. One was Lisa Loring. One was Lisa Loring, who was in the Addams Family. She played the little girl Wednesday, and the other one
No
was
way.
yeah.
That was
I
her
was
girlfriend?
I was her first kiss, and it was right in front of her mother, and I was so embarrassed.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Your
I
girlfriend
always
was Wednesday?
yeah But
Oh, okay.
as young kids,
Right,
you know,
right. Of course, of course.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Wow,
I
that's
was
so
at her
cool.
house, and she bent me over. I was taller than her and a couple years older. She bent me down and kissed me, and her mother was standing by the door and saw that occur. And like I said, I was
Oh,
so embarrassed, by that. And I always wished, this last 40 years that I would, see her again at a show, signing or something,
right.
and talk to
Never
her.
saw her.
And I just never made it to any of the shows she was in.
Oh,
And then she passed away earlier this year. So
oh, Gary.
at a
I hate
young
to hear that.
age. So I always
Mm.
wish that I had made more of a concerted effort, to see her and just ask her how she remembered things back then. And
That
then
goes
the
back
other
to
girl,
our last kiss. Remember at your mom's
yeah,
palm.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would just say, you remember. I don't know how much I looked like I did then, but I would say, you remember your first kiss, and just see what she would say. And now I'll never have that opportunity. The other girl was Diane Canova, who played on a show called Soap. She was a teenage girl on a show called
Okay.
Soap back then, and her mother
Wow.
was a famous singer. Yeah. So
Gary
anyway,
dating
being
the
right in the heart
celebrities.
of Hollywood, being right in the heart of Hollywood, I was around that whole. The Jackson Five, the older Jackson brothers, they
Yeah.
would cheat off my paper in class, and I let them, and so
That's hilarious.
I was in the middle of all that, and so
Wow.
as a kid growing up in Hollywood, that was kind of cool, and
What did your
then
dad do during that time? What was he doing?
he was he was he was an electrician. He
Okay.
was an electrician during World War II, and then he opened up his own electrician business, and so he did that for many years, and then went to work for the Los Angeles City School District as an electrician, and ran that.
That's so cool, Gary.
Yeah. So that was, I went to this. Well, the schools, people wouldn't know the names or anything like that, but so that was pretty much it. As a kid, I played football in high school.
Okay, I can see it.
Not great, but I did, and
I saw your like high school or like junior high picture with the mustache and the hair.
yeah,
Yeah, that was good.
yeah, that was like in the late '70s,
Yeah.
and that was kind of the style.
Yeah.
And I actually saw the Beatles, their first show at the Hollywood Bowl, I think is 1965. Waited in line all night to get inside the Hollywood Bowl, and then once the Beatles started playing, you couldn't hear a thing. The girls were screaming so loud, you couldn't hear any of the music. You could feel the bass guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah, Paul McCartney's bass guitar, and every once in a while you would hear a drum, but it was hopeless. I was so sad because I wanted to hear them. So growing up in a place like that, I had some unusual opportunities like that, and I really enjoyed it. Real good. I had a real good childhood. Seriously.
What was some of your, like, say, top 2 memories from your childhood, prior to high school, perhaps?
Yeah. Boy, just good memories, right? Yeah.
Yeah. You give me a bad one if you need to, but yeah.
I don't know. I guess a couple of the things I just said, were real good memories. And
Did a bad one come to your mind? Because I felt like something came to your mind, but you didn't think it was a good one. Was it a bad one that came to your mind?
Yeah. I was thinking that I got in. I really enjoyed playing football, and I got hurt. That took me out of sports completely, and that was kind of a down time for me because I really enjoyed, I really enjoyed baseball and football, and so that that was kind of a bad memory. But when they say when God closes the door, He opens a window, and
That's right.
things happen that I might not have ever been able to experience, and man, I have no regrets. I have no regrets whatsoever with anything in my life, and so.
Did your mom and dad have a pretty lackadaisical approach living in California, kind of free for all, let the kids run where they want, and come home for dinner, and that's pretty much it?
Absolutely. Yeah. It was way different then. As a 10-year-old, I used to take a city bus from the heart of Hollywood to the Santa Monica Pier, which is quite a distance, right? For a 10-year-old kid in the early morning, and then, fishing off the pier, and then coming home on the bus with my pail, my fish inside. Back then, you could do that. Now you're afraid to sit on your front porch. back then, you could travel anywhere you wanted to, and without the danger of crime. And
well, that puts you in what, 64, roughly speaking, right? 64,
yes.
65. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, different times.
Absolutely.
What about your brother? What was your relationship like with your brother?
Not a close relationship.
Okay.
He had totally different interests than I had. I'm trying to think anything we really did together besides church and church activities and that. We didn't really do much together. I had my own friends. He had his own friends. I had my own interests. He had different interests. So completely different. I would say that we're probably closer today than we ever were. Yeah.
Yes. Those 2 years made just enough difference to just say you can't hang out with me and my friends. We're too old for you, right? So
right, but that happened with Jay and Devin. My two sons. They're just over a year apart, but they have nothing in common at all, and they're not close at all, and never were, and very, very much like my brother and I. So I don't know if that's kind of the normal thing with boys, or
I was going to say, my wife and I talked about it as we were starting to build our family. And we intentionally said that we're going to put our 2 kids in the same room in a bunk bed, so they're forced to bond. Now we have another room for guests, but we forced them to stay in the room together, and they've never complained. They love it. They have forts, like they do sleepovers, like where they sleep, in one bed or the other one. But yeah, they have a great time. And now, granted, they fight like brothers, which is normal. Yeah. But they've definitely built a huge relationship. So just curiously, as a small little, sample size here, did you and your brother ever share a room, or did your sons share a room?
Yeah, well, a couple interesting things there. I think you have to be close to fight. To argue with each other, you have to be close. There has to be something of common interest just to not get along sometimes. My brother and I never fought about anything. We were just simply not close at all. And no, I don't recall us unless we were very young, sharing a room.
Okay.
So, you know,
Okay. And
I'm
your
trying
two
to.
boys are the same?
No, they shared a room. You know,
Hmm.
they shared a room.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
for quite a number of years, but just to sleep. Yeah,
Okay.
they never had a close relationship at all.
Yeah, I have
So,
a feeling we're running at the end of this rope here for the sharing the room because the older one's getting a little older. Things are starting to happen, so I think we might have maybe a couple years left, but we're gonna have to probably give up the other room pretty
right,
pretty
it's going to
soon.
be.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting to see how that works out.
yeah,
You
I'll
know,
keep
and
you posted.
yeah, yeah, right.
Gary, thinking about this from your perspective now, fast forward to meeting your wife, building your own family.
Hmm.
It's been such a beautiful journey for you. And you said it earlier on. So in case anybody missed it, you met your wife. She was the assistant director at the same hotel that you were the director at. And you
Yes.
guys kind of built the relationship from there. Sweet talked her into coming back home 5 years later, or I should say
Uh,
5 years to stay,
yes.
with the promise of if you don't want to, then I'll go back. But then you end up staying.
Yes.
Um, what do you love most about your wife? What really kept you attracted to her all these years?
Yeah. She's just the most warm-hearted, generous, hardworking person I know that I've ever met. She's nonstop. You know, you'll never see her lie down on the couch. You know, that kind of a thing like me.
Right.
I can relax and sit back. She'll be
Hmm.
playing with a Kara or playing with her plants
Mm-hmm.
or doing doing special lessons on the phone and all kinds of things. She's just terrific. One
Always
one of a
going.
kind. I've never known it. I've been married 3 times. I was married as a kid, and that only lasted a couple years. And then I was married again, Jay and Devin's mother,
Okay.
and uh, and we stuck together for like 15, 18 years in that because of the kids,
Right.
and then but that should have ended well before that. But I wanted to stay
Yeah.
close with Jay and Devin, and then this last 15 years, with Twan, and there's just nobody like her. I mean, uh, it's almost like she doesn't care about herself at all. She'll
Yeah. Very
uh,
selfless.
everything she has an ulterior motive, that'll be good for a Kara
Helping
or for
somebody.
me or something. That's why they're in Vietnam right now for 20
Mm.
days. Yeah, she's going to have some teeth work done while she's
Yep.
there, but every single thing she's doing is for a Kara. Is she sends me pictures every day of what they're doing, and stuff like that. They're Yeah, I'm extremely fortunate, to have Twan.
It's funny you mentioned that. I did a little Mother's Day video a while back on Mother's Day this year, and I thought about this quite a lot, especially as my wife and I go through our journey together and we start to mature in our marriage. We're a little bit
Uh-huh.
over 10 years in now, and to your very point, the selflessness that she has to dedicate everything to everybody else except herself,
Right.
it's just so heartwarming. And to see that, that motherly instinct slash just general love for everybody else, is definitely a trait that I can relate to and also admire in my wife. So beautiful thing.
Yeah, it even shows in Twan's work. She'll come home with bite marks on her arms and scratches on her cheek, and
Yeah.
because the special needs kids, you know they they don't understand
Yeah.
what they're doing, right?
No.
But
Yep.
she comes home with all kinds of marks. She has scars all over her arms and things like that, and yet she can't wait to get there the next day. And and then to see the progress that the kids go through in the course of their time with her, that's all that matters.
Yep. The progress there and the fulfillment that gives, I'm sure, is more than enough to bring her back day after day, year after year. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she wouldn't trade it. She wouldn't trade that for anything.
You know, I heard you say one time, Gary, I'm a man of God, and you mentioned a little bit earlier that you know, you went to church a lot as a kid with probably your mom and dad and your brother. How has religion played a role in your life, and maybe just yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it means the world to us. It's I mean, there's I think it's the most important extracurricular activity there is, you know, that we can do, you know, and I think it's extremely important for kids. And now you were asking about some of my best memories. Well, you know, a lot of those best memories as a kid, you know, came from my time in church, Christian camps, summer camps for a week,
Oh,
you know, that we would go
nice.
to. And I mean, I don't think you can lead a fulfilling life without it. And if you don't have that, you just simply don't realize how much better it can be.
Right.
So,
yeah. That things you didn't know perhaps were missing, or that empty hole or emptiness can somehow be fulfilled by that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a kind of interesting too, because Tuan is Buddhist. And that,
I was wondering,
you know,
how the
she was
intersection
brought,
came.
yeah, and I respect that. You know, a lot of different doors, you know, lead to God, and we have our thing downstairs. I could show you if we were down there. She has her Buddhist thing set up, and
I love
with her special flowers and in that, and that's her faith. You know, that's what she believes. But she'll go to church with me, and she'll, you know, read out of the Bible to Akara, and so, you know, she is open to that too.
Have you practiced any Buddhism yourself?
No, I
Okay.
don't. Besides rubbing his belly for luck, no.
Okay. Okay.
You know, I haven't. No.
Okay. No, I can definitely relate, though. Yeah, I would love to hear a story, perhaps from Christian camp. Do you have one that you would want to share before we bring it to a close?
Yeah, every year, 2 times there we go to a place called Selma, Camp Selma, and it was a Christian camp where in my very younger years, my grandmother, my dad's mother, would go and stay with us up there.
Oh.
And then in the later years as a kid, my parents would just drop me off there, and I'd stay there a week by myself. And you know, we'd have services every night. Then we would have songs by the campfire every evening. We would have hikes. I remember there was this place called Heart Rock, and we would hike through the mountains to get to this special place where you look over the side. There'd be a rock shaped like a heart, and
cool.
And then we would, you know, those were great memories. Those were really great memories. And then I would have friends join me, you know, when I reached my teenage years, and they would go with me, and they would, you know, and then they would get interested in the word, and we were very, you know, I was grateful for that, because I was able to bring friends that I loved being with and introducing them, you know, plus, you know, being young boys, and that, you know, there were always a lot of girls there. And you know, nothing wrong with that either. You know, probably most of our, you know, for early experiences, you know, were, you know, there.
At Christian camp.
Yeah, at Christian camp. Yeah.
You know, Gary, I saw it was 14 years ago. Your first video on YouTube was you playing a song. Do you remember the song? Love, I forget the name. Love something.
Yeah, I sang that for Tuan.
Did you?
Yeah, she was in Vietnam still.
Okay.
And I had left Vietnam to come home, and then she was arranging to come, and I sang that song to her. that video, my first video I made for her.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh wow, so that's such a cool story.
Uh-huh.
The reason I bring those two stories together, I was wondering, was that where you had your inspiration to play guitar at the Christian camp around the campfire?
I started playing guitar around that time, but I had a teacher.
Okay.
In fact, I think not around. Let me see. I think I started playing guitar in 1967 or 8, maybe 1968, because my first guitar was a 0018 Martin, and
Ooh.
and yeah, it was $260 on sale for $190. My
Good deal.
parents, my parents said if I came up with $50, they would pay the balance, and I did, and they did. That was in 1969. So my first guitar was in 1969, and I took lessons. I was in a little band, a little rock and roll band. We practiced in our garage, played a couple of gigs at parties.
Really?
But never amounted to much beyond that.
Were you singing as well?
Yeah, I was actually the lead singer also. I played rhythm guitar, was the lead singer.
Oh, that's so cool. And was it original songs or did you guys do covers?
We did covers, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, covers of the rock and roll songs of the time.
I love it, Gary. What a great story.
Yeah.
I was wondering, because I know you said you like guitar, and then I saw that video. Okay, maybe this is where you picked it up in Christian camp.
It's really interesting, Kane. You're asking me a lot of questions I've never been asked before. So a lot of this is all brand new, discussing or I'm impressed. I'm impressed with those questions because I don't mind any question, right? And yet you're asking somewhere I've never discussed it before.
Well, I say this every now and then, is that I do a decent amount of research for the people that I want to bring on, and that's my way of showing respect to them so that we can have a really in-depth conversation and hopefully share something with the audience as well, but also keep you having fun and engaged and go back to good times and share all of this with everybody. So I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, you really made me think back.
Well, Gary, I know you said an hour. We're at 2. I had an absolute blast. We end typically with 2 questions, Gary. So if you would kindly allow us to wrap it up with those 2, and then we'll let you go apart your day, sir.
The first one is you. The first one is you want a loan?
No.
Oh, okay. Maybe I do.
Well, that's okay. That's all right. We can talk about that after the podcast. But no, it's actually that the average person stays in a hobby like this for 2 to 4 years, roughly speaking. However, you've been in Pokemon alone for more than 25, and of course, many more collectibles prior to that. How do you keep yourself with the passion of the hobby and get through perhaps some of those times of fatigue that you may want to step away or take a break? So many kind of get burned out, but you seem to have the fire to keep going all these years. And the way I can see it, you're going to keep going until the very, very end. So what's the secret?
I'm not even really sure where it comes from, because in my family, there are no collectors. My mother, my father, my mom and dad couldn't throw things away fast enough. They don't want any clutter around.
Well, they came from the Great Depression, so.
Right. My brother had no interest whatsoever in collecting. Nobody collected in my family, and I'm talking about aunts, uncles, cousins. Nobody was interested in collecting, and from the very beginning, I had an inherent interest in the hobbies, in collecting, and so I can't say I inherited that gene, because I didn't. Why did I have it? I don't know. It just started like in 1959 as 5-year-old, collecting those bottle caps,
right,
with football players' faces on them, and from 5 years old on, I've been collecting nonstop ever since. And so I don't know where it comes from, but I know it's always there. And why
The passion. How do you keep it going?
yeah, you see, it's really hard to answer that too, because I don't know. I mean,
Let's look at it maybe this way. When
yeah,
you wake up those days, you're traveling on Collecticon. And I know that's tough. I'm only 42 and I travel. And it's like 4-hour drive. This is like, wow, that's a lot. I need to sit down and rest. And these
right.
days you think, well, I now have to get up the next morning and I'm going to be there all day. Now, granted, you like the experience, you like engaging with the people, but just the journey itself and going through some of the, I would say, pre-work can take a
Mm-hmm.
lot. What do you say to yourself when you're thinking, I don't know if I should go to the next Collecticon. I'm a little too tired, but you still do it anyways. What are the thoughts that run through your mind?
Yeah, pretty much. I'm always really hyped up in the beginning. And then by the day it's time to come home, I'm beat. And that's when I might have the feelings, oh, I don't know how much longer I can do this.
Yeah.
But you know what? It doesn't take very many, people saying something nice to me, saying that, or showing me their phone where they took a picture with me, last year, the year before somewhere, and saying that, this was the last time we met and got this picture. And I always say, oh, let's get another picture. You can show it to me next year or something. It doesn't take very many experiences like that to make me, to hype me up again and can't wait till the next time. Fortunately, that's why I said I couldn't go from Dallas to Charlotte, because that was 4 days apart and I was just too dead tired. With a little bit of time to recover, I start really wanting to get to the next one. So
yeah, and I think you touched something important there, Gary, and it's been spoken about here on the podcast many times, and that's, I never realized how much the people in the hobby would be the reason that we would all keep going. And granted, Pokemon cards brought us together. It was the medium of which we intersected, right? But once we made those connections, that's the real fire in the hobby. It's the people.
Yeah, that's very true, and I did partially mean that. Yeah, for sure. I mean, pretty much. It's the only friends I have are people in the hobby.
Or through the hobby in some shape or form. Yeah.
Yeah, my childhood friends are either dead or incapacitated. They're so it's pretty much like we were talking about Zach or because you build relationships that way. You have a common interest and you build relationships. Plus, since I get to all the Collecticons, they come to many of them, and I get to meet up with them again and talk about what's going on, and we're talking about really good sincere people, and I'm lucky to have such good friends like that. I mean, I could show you my phone and show you the messages and the phone calls, where they stay in touch, and I mean, I'm very lucky to have that, and I'm sure they feel the same way.
They sure do, and that's actually ironically where I met you, was at Zach's booth in Charlotte. Yeah, you were manning the booth, and Zach was away, I think, trying to source product or something. Maybe out getting lunch. I'm not sure. But yeah, you were manning Zach's side of the booth. Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, Gary, we have one here from Basic before we continue on. Basic Trainer, good to see you, my friend.
Good to
Question
see him.
For Gary.
I love him. He's a great guy. I've met him many times.
That's one of the biggest MetaZoo enthusiasts there for quite some time. When will he trade the pre-release Clefable PSA 9? And why did he choose Basic?
Yeah, I don't have many of those, so I'll probably hang on to them. Yeah, he's been up here to Vegas, and he's been to I'm IVR's new store, and yeah, he's a good guy.
He sure is. I
Good
love
friend.
me some basic.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Well, Gary, we'll end it on this one, sir.
You said there was a second question you always ask.
There it is.
Oh,
There.
oh, so I did put up the 2 fingers because I said
that was
second question.
It didn't do it again. I love it. That's that. There it goes. There it goes. We got it. We
Sit
got
here
it.
a long time and keep doing that when we get off. Yeah,
I think it even does it if you do the heart and everything like that to it. Yeah, it does the hearts. There it is.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
I hope they're all clean, the things they do.
Yeah, I didn't test the other side of that, so I'll let you do that after the podcast. Yeah, the second one, sir, is one day we will all leave this hobby and hopefully peacefully and gracefully. But what legacy do you hope to leave in the hobby when you're gone, Gary?
Yeah, well, I think over these 25 years, the work I've been able to do, and I call it work, and it's far from it. That's kept the hobby going at times, and in that I just hope I'm remembered for sincerely caring for the people, sincerely caring for the hobby. I just hope it's made it's made as much of a difference in other people's lives as it's made mine. Like I said, this isn't charity. This is just life, and I'm fortunate with the way it turned out, and hopefully there'll be a lot more to come. My family has a habit of living a long time. They all live into their 90s and all that, so I might have a good solid 20 years left. And if so, I hope it's 20 more, wonderful years of still enjoying what I enjoy doing. Yeah.
Well, Gary, I will say you've been an inspiration to myself and so many, and we would be honored if you would stay with us for another 20 years, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Truly honored. Truly honored.
All right.
Well, Gary, we'll wrap it up here, sir. Thank you so much for your extra time and giving us a little bit extra than we planned. I really do appreciate it. It's been a blast of a conversation. Thoroughly enjoyed some of the stories you shared with us today, and I appreciate you kind of opening up and maybe sharing some new things you haven't said before. So I really do appreciate that.
Well, thank you too, and let's do it again in a year and see how we made out.
I would love it. I would love to do it
and take care of those boys.
That's right. Well, hang tight. We'll talk for just a second after we end the podcast. But for everybody else, please check out the description below. We got Gary's links there on Instagram, YouTube, but also the Autism Instruct. So make sure you give them a follow. And once they open up to the public, of course, we'll be happy to support there as well. We always appreciate your time for watching. We thank you so much. And we'll see you on the next Rants, everybody.
Goodbye, all.
Thank you.